He's the hero on the screen, virtual worlds where he's the king, saving lives with every click, gaming power does the trick.
It seems recently that Ubisoft hasn't exactly had a great track record when it comes to video games. They haven't announced in a while that any game that they've released has been a runaway success. And today, recording this commentary, they actually said that Star Wars Outlaws underperformed. I can see why Star Wars Outlaws underperformed. I don't play many Ubisoft games. The last Ubisoft game I played was Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, and I thought it was a decent open world game. It wasn't anything great. It wasn't anything bad. It existed and it did what you thought it would do. So going into Star Wars Outlaws, I thought that would be the same case, but I was going to be very, very wrong. The open world in Star Wars Outlaws has many flaws with it. Once you get past the initial intro, you're then told that you can go to Tatooine or Kijimi, and both of those planets have flaws in the sense that when you go there, Tatooine is pretty barren, if I'm being honest with you. It's how you see it in Star Wars movies, with just few buildings sporadically placed around. That's exactly what it is in the open world, and it doesn't bode well for a video game. It just feels lifeless and barren. Kijimi is essentially the same. Kijimi is just snow. Tatooine is just sand. Those are the two environments that you have, but they have buildings and they have an element. In this case, Tatooine would be heat and sand. Kijimi would be cold and snow. And there's buildings. As I said, there's nothing in these environments that really are unique. There's nothing in these environments that make you want to explore. It is literally one of the very first, if not the first, open world games I've ever played to where I had no inclination to explore this planet. I had no willpower to explore because you could just see there was nothing to explore. It was like a copy and paste over and over and over. And it didn't even look great to begin with. Ghost of Tsushima is kind of similar in how there isn't a lot in the open world. But when you're riding, the environments sell you alone on that. And you just want to constantly be finding new areas, new places to see because of the graphics. Star Wars Outlaws is still running on your stupid Ubisoft engine that they've used since it seems like the Division 1. Literally, Star Wars Outlaws would be the Division 1 remaster. The other side of this double-edged sword with the open world with Ubisoft, if you're not disappointed with there not being anything to explore, is that it does not perform well. You will have frame dips all over the place. When you're in combat, I'll give them credit that it does maintain a steady 60 frames, which makes no sense because there's some combat areas that are in the open world itself until you go inside buildings that runs great. But the moment you believe those restricted areas, not literally restricted, just confined would be a better word. Once you leave those confined areas, the frame rates dip again. And it's not just a few frames. No, you're going to go from 60, 70, 80 frames down to probably 40 or 45 frames. I did not like the open world in Star Wars Outlaws at all. I felt that it was lazily copy and pasted. There was nothing that made you want to explore the open world. The side quests weren't that great, if any was even there. Like, I'm thinking back, and the side quests that I remember, they were literally just go here, find this person. And the problem with them was the flying itself, going from planet to planet, which is how we will transition now. The mission structure in Star Wars Outlaws, when you take in the main quest and the side quest, it's just not fun. And part of it is because it went with the whole Starfield approach that you're going to want to explore planets. And then when you realize, and you play games like this when you have to go from planet to planet, looking back at Destiny, how you could just go to orbit and then load into a planet, I like that more than I like it now, to where you have to go to your ship, launch your ship to space to take off. Then when you're in space, you have to click a planet. And yes, it's similar to Destiny and how you can go to orbit in Star Wars Outlaws. And then when you're in orbit, you can fast travel to that galaxy if these planets aren't contained within the same galaxy. I don't know my Star Wars lore, so don't fault me for that. There is that, but you still have to go to your ship. You still have to take your ship to orbit, space, and then you have to fast travel, and then you have to fly specifically close enough to the planet that you can initiate a landing. This gets very, very tedious with the quest system, whether it's a main quest or a side quest, and you're going to planets that you've already seen dozens of times. You're circling back to them. You're going from planet to planet just to do quests, and I had no will to do side quests in this game. I did not like the travel system. I did not like how you had to go from planet to planet just to do things. Like, some quests will have you go to one planet, which then leads you to another planet, and then you have to return to the initial planet. And this is also a side mission. This isn't the main quest. You do have to do that in the main quest, but the quests themselves are just bad as well. The mission structure is very repeating. There's nothing unique about it. Literally, without giving you too many spoilers, and I wouldn't even say it's spoilers. If you don't want to know the mission structure, don't listen, but it's not a spoiler. The mission itself is where you have to go to a planet, help someone, and they even have the same mission that you have to do for that person to join your crew. I'm talking, this person will be sitting on a conveyor belt, riding along as you clear out an area. Yes, there are things that you have to do before that, but to conclude the quest, that is what you have to do. And if I'm remembering it correctly, you have to do that like 3 times to recruit 3 separate people. The missions in this game repeat. If you think it's like, hey, other games make it repeat where you go here, defend this, do that, sort of like Destiny is. No, this game is literally copy and paste. You want me to join your crew? Help me escape. I'm going to ride this conveyor belt as you clear a path for me. That is literally the mission structure. You've done it once, you've done it twice, you'll do it 3 times. And by the time you get to the end, it's like, I've just wasted my time. Because the ending to the game itself isn't even great. I just wanted to play this game. I did pay for Ubisoft Plus, so I was going to at least finish the game. And that I did. And I left wishing, literally 2 hours in, I wished that I had my money back at that point. I did not like the quest systems. I did not like the traversal systems, which ties into the quest. I did not like the structure of the missions themselves. One of the things I find myself disliking about Ubisoft games, since I haven't played many, is how they like you to not have a lot of ammo. In this game, you can pick up guns and you kind of never really run out of ammo, but they don't let you have a permanent secondary weapon. You have a pistol at all times that shoots a laser. I forgot what the name of it is that you use, but you can pick up guns off of stormtroopers and whatnot, but you can't sprint with them, can't climb with them. I don't know if you can sprint with some, I think, but you can't climb. If you try to climb something, you're dropping the weapon. The combat in itself, it can be fun, but at the same time, it definitely gets tedious because you're using the pistol unless you find some other weapon, but you can't keep that weapon even if you wanted to because you're gonna drop it. The combat system in this game definitely could use some work, and I did not enjoy the combat system entirely. It wasn't bad by any means. I just wish that you could have had more permanent fixtures, more permanent secondary weapons, instead of just having a pistol at all times. I guess they want the whole outlaw thing. You're an outlaw running around with a pistol. That's what they wanted to go for. And I don't think that works as well as they thought it would. Part of the combat is also the healing system, and I don't necessarily like the healing system. There weren't many systems in this game that I like. I don't know what they were going for in this game, but it just feels like it is a very, very early access game. And I'm talking, not even talking early access, I'm talking you just fleshed out a little bit of the graphics. You threw the coding in there to allow you to shoot a weapon, and that's where you stand on the creation of the game. You haven't refined the systems. You haven't did anything, and I find it kind of stupid that when you climb, you drop a weapon. I remember PS2 games to where when you would climb something, you would drop the weapon. Usually it would be for heavy weapons or something. You know, you pick up a grenade launcher or an RPG, and when you climb, you drop it. But no, this game, a simple assault rifle, you're dropping it. The combat system itself, as I said, it's decent. It's not great. The Division does it better. And why the Division? Because it's a Ubisoft game. I feel like Avatars of Pandora Frontier of Pandora had a better combat system, just because you had permanent secondary weapons that weren't just some simple handgun or bow and arrow. That's probably where I'm going to wrap up this review. In case you haven't noticed the theme of my review so far, I did not like the game. And I feel like this game could very well be a 4. But the lore of Star Wars alone, I will give it a 5 out of 10. The game did not do a lot of things right. The only thing that I really liked was the lockpicking system. And it was kind of the only rhythm that the game had to it. You know, it was the only type of systems to where you really felt like you were engaged with the game. Every other instance in this game, you kind of just wanted to rush to the next part. And that's how I went about the story. The story wasn't great. The combat was adequate, but there is so much left to be desired. The open world was boring. I feel like a 5 is too high. A 4 out of 10 just seems too low too. Ubisoft definitely needs to refine their games, and too long they've made their games just be perfectly okay with the status quo. And today it was announced that Assassin's Creed is being delayed. I think people are just burned out on Ubisoft games. It's literally copy and paste, just throw a different avatar in there, no pun since they made an Avatar game. I don't know many people who will enjoy this game. If you enjoy this game, I feel like you're just trying to trick yourself into it. And I feel bad for people who may have spent full price on this game. Like, even as someone who, I wouldn't consider myself a Star Wars fan, but I'm interested in learning the lore. I left this game having felt like I just wasted my time with it. And that for me in an open world game is new territory. This is the first open world game I ever played to where I left disinterested in open world games. Would I recommend this game to someone? No, I would not. I wouldn't even wait until your typical Ubisoft sale happens and you get it 50% off. I feel like this game is a $20 game and they sold it for $70. Do not buy this game, because it is very boring. It is boring, boring, boring.